John Hickok here. Welcome to Armed in 1969, Vietnam edition. It's a pretty good year. I wasn't alive for it, so I have to just believe what everyone tells me, but I'm told that we landed on the moon in 1969. I heard about that. Also, the Beatles played their last live concert, and basically the end of the Beatles, 1969. I think they maybe officially broke up a little after that, but that famous rooftop concert. And then Woodstock, big year, 69, big year for music, and obviously the Vietnam War. So we've got 3 firearms out here for the Armed In series like we normally do, but this one's a little bit different. Other than me being in the video, aside from just that, it's a little different because we do not have a shotgun. And my thinking on that was, since I wanted to do the M60 for an Armed In Vietnam, and a 60 gunner, if they were issued anything else other than their M60, it was going to be a sidearm, right? And I thought about I could have done the M16 or some sort of Vietnam era shotgun, but I thought it might be cooler to use Dad's Type 56 here, even though this is a later one with a stamped receiver. It's representative of the milled receiver Type 56 AKs, Chinese AKs that were used by the North Vietnamese in the Vietnam War. So we'll say it was this hypothetical machine gunner that we're going to be showing his loadout today. We'll say it's it's kind of like a war trophy, right? Maybe had it in under his cot or something like that. Kept it with him on the fire base. Maybe someone carried it for him when he's out in the field. We'll say this is his 3-gun battery. The M60 E1, his primary issue as a machine gunner. The Colt 1911 A1 here in the period correct holster. This happens to be a Remington Rand, and the Type 56 AK. Okay, M60. Let's start out by shooting this thing. One thing I always like to demonstrate when I am firing an M60, it is famous for being one of the most accurate machine guns, and I do the quotes because it's not a sniper rifle, obviously, but it has such a smooth action and a comfortable rate of fire, around typically between 550 650 rounds per minute. I would say this one is I don't know, I haven't clocked it or whatever, measured it to get the exact rounds per minute on this thing the way I have it set up, because it kind of changes depending on what kit I have on it. It seems to be about 600. Kind of reminds me of the speed of like a full-size Uzi, something like that. But it's something about just a long bolt throw and action. It's just easy to hold on target, and you can keep surprisingly pretty tight groups with it. Let's go ahead and start off strong with these watermelons over here. You can see I've got 4 of them, I believe it is, stacked up on top of this barrel. All right, safety off. All right, hopefully the sights are on. All right, took him out pretty good, I think. Okay, I'm gonna do a couple of single shots on the red plates. I'm gonna start with the one on the top left. Well, I said single, I actually only let 2 go. Let's try again. All right, let's try the next one to the right here. Next one over. That. Okay, so you can fire single shots pretty easily. I did not try hard enough on that first one. I forgot you do have to kind of feather it a little bit, but it's not a problem with the slower rate of fire. So the M60, we'll talk about it first. Belt-fed machine gun, obviously famous for being used in the Vietnam War. Definitely in 1969, this is the machine gun that you would have been carrying in the field, and it's the one this hypothetical guy had. You've got typically 100-round belts is what you're going to be carrying, a 7.62 by 51 or a 308, and it's going to come packaged in these packs right here. You'd have like a 30 caliber ammo can, and it would come with 2 of these packs. This is a more period correct one right here. This is Lake City ammo, dated 75. I believe this is the 75 stuff. There's some 68, yeah, 75. There's some actually 68 dated stuff in there. So this is what it looks like. As you can see here, this older ammo, Lake City had the holes right there and the links, and then this is the newer stuff. All the Lake City ammo has dates on the back. Like this is yeah, this is 2019, 1975. See, it has the holes, and then later they went to the solid links. And then over here, this other stuff we're shooting, which also appreciate Widener's for hooking us up with ammo. It's nice having them on as our ammo sponsor. This is newer ammo, MagTech, and it's kind of cool because it has the old school style links, which is pretty neat. So M60, super heavy gun. It's a machine gun. All machine guns like this are going to be pretty heavy, about 24 pounds, something like that. Just for comparison, the M16A1, which would have been the standard issue rifle of that time in 1969 Vietnam, about 6 pounds. So you're looking at, not a mathematician, but what, about 4 times the weight. It's a big old heavy gun. Interchangeable barrels, you know, open bolts, fires from the open bolt, full auto only, got fire safe down here. It's pretty straightforward. Top cover, we may get into some of the more specifics and some of the problems with it later on. And of course, we've got the trusty 1911, right, which we adopted in 1911. Saw it in World War I, World War II. Now, to my knowledge, there were not any of these produced specifically for Vietnam. They just had a lot left over from World War II. So there may have been, this is the A1 model where you have the raised mainspring housing, the short trigger, longer beaver tail here, slight modifications that they made for the A1. You could have had some of the original 1911s, of course, in Vietnam, and I'm sure there were a lot, but I would assume most of them were probably the A1 model. Let's take a few shots with it. All right. Let's see. Let's start with this blue 2-liter right here. All right, pretty sweet. I'll tell you what though, if your M60 went down and you had to pull this out, you would definitely miss. You would miss the machine gun for sure. And then of course we have the Type 56. Now, like I said earlier, this one is a stamped receiver, whereas the ones that were used by the North Vietnamese at the time would have been a milled gun, but pretty representative, similar to what they would have found. And I've heard lots of stories about guys, not necessarily machine gunners, but guys picking these up and using them in Vietnam, especially in the early days when they had problems with the M16s before they fixed them a little bit further along in the war. And I would assume also a lot of guys would have picked them up and try to keep them as war trophies. And this one happens to be, you know, both of these are transferable machine guns, and this one happens to be it was a civilian. It was a semi-automatic Type 56 that was converted legally prior to '86. But there are some on the market that are actual vet bringbacks, where guys from Vietnam brought these back and registered them legally during the amnesty period. So I know for a fact that guys did that because they exist. All right. 30 rounds, 7.62 by 39. Let's take out these pots with this. Seems like a good pot smoking gun. Let's put it on full auto. We don't have that semi-automatic kind of time. We're gonna get these things taken care of. All right. Does the number on them for sure. Okay. Pretty cool, sweet gun. Let's see. Let's fire some more with the old M60. I'm gonna put this on here. Now, to my knowledge, I have a friend in the military, and I actually asked him about this. But to my knowledge, these packs were not ever really used to be actually mounted on the side of the gun. I don't know. It seems like they were designed for that to be used that way, but to my knowledge, it wasn't really done. But here on the range, I like to do it because it makes it more convenient. So slip it on here like that. It seems to work pretty well. Safety on. You see, you load it in just like that. And then you've probably seen this in the movies a lot, where they smack the top cover down. And you know, it's really not a big problem to do that. You know, you've got this little lever down here, you know, and you can push it back and then push it down and let it fly, but it's easier just to pop it like that. You don't want to do it too hard, you could maybe damage something. Okay, we're ready to go. I'm gonna put the bipod down. There we go, look at that. That's a sweet rig right there. This thing is heavy. Okay. Let's see. Let's get this watermelon down here in the bucket. All right, got some bowling pins. I don't know what was happening there. It looked like I was hitting it, but it wasn't falling over. Got a plate back there. You can be surprisingly precise with this thing. I know one of the issues hauling these things through the jungle is they would get hung up on the bipod. I read somewhere of a machine gunner veteran. He took the bipod off of his barrels. They did have slings. Some of them would use that, but then they would also get hung up on brush, things like that. Let's see if I can hit the red plate over there offhand. Oh, got the safety on. All right, I'll have to try it again later. Oh. Yeah, you wear yourself out, at least I do, doing that for very long. Okay. One thing, it's cool. So this is a, you know, it's a transferable machine gun. It's not a bring back from the war or anything like that. But what it does have is original parts on it that could have been used in the Vietnam War. As you can see, this top cover has been beat up pretty good right here. As you can see on this side where the belts go in, and you know, and when the links and everything, brass comes out, you know, they would sling the belts over top of them, do all kinds of things. They obviously weren't worried about the finish during the war. But these are all original parts. I got these from Aaron over at beltfeds.com. You know, he is the M60 guy. He is the M60 guru. Whenever I have questions about the M60 or I need something, I always talk to him. And he told me that, so these parts came from, he has all these crazy sources. I don't know how he gets some of this stuff, but he says that these have never been put on a civilian gun until now. So could have been used in Vietnam, could have been used in the 80s or the early 90s, you know, who knows. But definitely, you look at the patina and everything, definitely have been used. And this little tag down here on the barrel is pretty cool. It's kind of a rare find on for M60 barrels you would find now. It's an armorer's code they use to kind of keep all this organized. Same thing with the number right here on the stock. So that's a pretty cool thing. All right, shoot this AK again. AKs are a lot of fun. I do think I prefer the M16. You know, again, like I said, I've heard stories about guys in Vietnam replacing their M16 with an AK. I would think some of the issues with that would be, you know, of course, steel magazines instead of aluminum alloy, heavier ammo, and you got to find ammo from the enemy, which maybe wasn't a big problem. I don't know, but it seemed like it would be a lot. You'd have to really hate your M16, I think, to make the switch. But these are really nice guns. Okay, let's put it on semi. All right, let's see if I can hit the red plate with this thing. All right, something weird happened. Okay, let's try the other one. Slide over to the right. Okay. It's like ever so slightly smaller, and all of a sudden now I can't hit it. Let's try the one furthest to the right. Okay. Can't tell where I'm going. Okay, let's go back to the big one. Figure out where I'm going. Okay. That was low. Low. Alright, this gun's playing tricks on me apparently. Okay. It's got a few left. There we go. Okay, now let's try the smaller one. Maybe I'm just getting tired and not as steady from holding up that M60. Okay. Alright, far right. I heard hitting something solid over there, but it might just be the stand. Alright, how many rounds we got left? 3 rounds. Let's do a 3-round burst. Okay. There we go. One thing I want to do before we wrap it up, take this off, is there's a metal bucket over there to the left of the 55-gallon drum, and I'm going to do kind of a long burst on it and see how good of a group I could shoot. It's probably going to move around. It may not be a great experience, but experiment. But maybe if Dad can zoom in on it, get some idea of the groups you can shoot with this thing, especially from the bipod. All right. Well, these things are so much fun to shoot. I'm glad I did not have to hump one of these things around in a war, though. Okay. So maybe you can see a little bit from that. They're pretty easy, you know, to keep on target. And of course, the idea of a machine gun is it's not a absolute precision type of thing. I mean, you kind of want to spread the rounds around a little bit, sort of the idea. But the M60 though is famous for being one of the most accurate. I know that the machine gun, well, the military just adopted a new machine gun just now, like in the last year or so. I forget what it's called, one of the SIG guns, but the 240, which replaced this, the Mag 58 as it was originally called, was actually around at the same time in the late 50s as the M60, and they tested both of them before deciding on the M60, and they found the M60 to be more accurate and reliable up to a certain point. And one of the reasons that they eventually did switch to the Mag 58 or the 240, as most people would know it, because of longevity. That's one of the big downsides of the M60. When everything, all the parts are new, it's been well maintained, it's a very reliable Great shooting gun, but the parts do tend to wear out pretty quickly, especially in the context of military and how many rounds that they're firing, especially in Vietnam, that toward the end of the war when they were just dumping rounds, so many rounds into the treetops out of out of Huey helicopters and things like that. What starts to happen is the receiver starts to stretch right here, and you get unreliability. You get peening on the bolt because of the way that as the bolt goes in and locks into the chamber that's attached to the barrel, it basically like bounces in essentially, and that causes peening on the bolt, and you got to stone that down and repair that ever so often. The op rods, the tower on the op rod, also, I won't take it apart and show all that. We've got other videos where I've kind of gone more in depth on all that, but there's a lot of things that really start to kind of break down and fail with these guns when you start to get higher round counts on them, and of course the military is all about, because they have to buy so many of them. They have to, I guess they got tired of the having to replace so many parts, and the 240 just runs longer and better, and it's just a better gun for extended use is what I'm trying to say, I guess. But I think most people that shoot both of them side by side, and I've shot the 240 before, would prefer this one. But I definitely, if I was going into battle, I'd probably rather have the 240, just because I've had one of these things long enough to know they do have a lot of problems. Not that the 240 doesn't also, but you really gotta maintain these things. They're a bit finicky, and shouldn't be surprised considering we took a lot of inspiration from the MG42, and German designs, especially earlier ones, do tend to be well engineered, but not the most durable always, right? They're not. The M60 is not the AK of machine guns. That is for sure. This top cover is basically an MG42 top cover, and it even kind of has a little bit of the look of an MG42. So I'll show you real quick too how the barrel actually, it may be too hot to do that. Let's see. Yeah, it's gonna be too hot to try to change the barrel, but basically I'll show you how it works. So essentially, as you can see right here, this is your gas tube, which the op rod rides in, and you flip up this little lever right here. Bolt's got to be locked to the rear, otherwise the bolt face is going to be locked into the barrel and it's not going to move. But you release this right here, make sure that bolt is to the rear. Release this right here, and that would free up the barrel. Actually, I may be able to do it by the bipod. That was one of the things, they issued an asbestos glove for these, but supposedly what you could do, let's try it, let's see if it works. Supposedly what you could do is put the bipod down and then use that to pull the barrel out. Let's see. Yeah, look at that. It works. I gotta make sure I don't set it on something where it's gonna melt the hide here. There we go. Okay. And we got a nice cold barrel. See that? Throw it in there just like that. In place, and then lock it in, and boom, got a new barrel. Now, I didn't even fire maybe 100, 150 rounds over a long span, but I would assume in combat in the jungle and the in the heat of all that action, you're gonna have, these things are gonna be red hot, and you couldn't just grab the bipod and change it. And that was one of the drawbacks too, where the bipod is attached to the barrel. So when you carry around the spare barrels, you gotta carry around all these bipods everywhere. So that was another downside of it. And the later variants of the M60, it's mounted down here on the gas tube, so you have something that also holds the gun up while and the handle's attached to the barrel, so you can pull it out easily, put a new one in. Whereas you saw there, it was kind of awkward to try to do that standing up. Laying down, you have to like lay the gun on its side, and so the M60 was definitely not perfect, and there was a lot of things that they did improve about the M60 down the road, but it wasn't enough for them to not go to, to a new machine gun. So, all right, well, I could talk for hours about the M60, but this is not the M60 video. This is Armed In 1969. So I hope that gives you some idea, a little bit about some of these guns and what their use might have been. And I guess we shot up just about everything. Let me put a, let's see, I think I've got another magazine for the pistol. Let me shoot the target before we go. All right. Look at that. I think one went in my pocket. No, it didn't. All right. Well, there you go. The M1911 A1 Remington Rand production with a Type 56 Chinese AK and the M60 E1. Not a bad selection of firearms if it was all you had. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and see you on the next one. Oh yeah, that's better. This is a great gun for defense. Oh hey, didn't see you guys there. While I've got you here, I want to remind you of our friends over at Talon Grips and Ballistol. Talon Grips makes grips, can you believe it, for all different types of firearms. You can get rough texture or more of a rubberized texture. It just sticks right on there. You know, really affordable, really cool option to improve the grip for your handguns or rifles. So please check them out at talongungrips.com. You'll be glad you did. And also Ballistol. Dad has been using Ballistol for many years. It's a cleaner and a lubricant, and it's non-toxic. It works really great, and we're happy to have them on board since it's been a part of our shooting endeavor for a very long time. So go to ballistol.com, talongungrips.com. And also, while you're out there, I'm juggling all these things here. Also, while you're on the internet, please do check out our other social media like Hickok45 on Facebook. There's also Hickok45 on Twitter, The Real Hickok45 on Instagram. There's a John_Hickok45 on Instagram where I do some things. There's Hickok45.com. You can find us also on Gunstreamer. So check out all that stuff and then watch more videos.